Didn't even have to prompt you. You're awesome. You're awesome. Everybody, welcome tonight. We're episode number 414 here at Tropical Nomad every Monday. Tonight is all about this great word, regenerative, which we're going to get into very soon, and we're going to introduce our wonderful guest. Now, I met some friends during the week, some new friends, and they didn't actually know what SpeakuP Monday, why it's on a Monday. So I'll quickly address that now. So there was 3 reasons why we started it on a Monday. Probably the most compelling reason is that in Sydney, where I used to live and work for a good stretch of time, in the hospitality industry, 3 incredible operators who looked good, smelled good, in 1 year all took their own lives, right? So they all committed suicide. No one saw it coming. On more reflection and more research, I found 2 things. One was that heart attacks are the most common on a Monday. Right? And followed not very far behind is attempted suicides on Mondays as well. So to do a show that was based around inspiration, was based around that people inspire people, and the motto of Indonesia, which is unity in diversity, there's only one day that it could happen, which would be a Monday, a day where you can drop a stone of positive intention into that pond of still water where the positive ripples affect the whole. So that's why when you see it, as I mentioned before, welcome Toby, that it's unity and diversity and people inspire people. So just to move on to tonight's show, we'll get you a seat coming pretty soon. So to move on to tonight's show, as you mentioned before, we have a few words. So one is sustainability and one is regenerative. Now one seems to have replaced the other. We're going to go into that. We're going to introduce Regenerative Indonesia Network. What is it? Why does it exist? What is it aiming to do? Right? And this is Indonesia-wide, right? So remember, this show is called SpeakuP Monday, Destination Indonesia. Not Destination Bali, but Indonesia as a whole. So my name is Robert Ian Bonnick. I'm the founder and host of SpeakuP Monday, Destination Indonesia. We also am the founder of RIB and Associates. Now, the problem that we solve is for foreign and domestic companies to either enter Indonesia and grow, and that's also domestic companies in Indonesia growing. So we are a super connector, we're a long-term project builder, and we just ensure that we connect all of the relevant dots for you to have success. So look, let's go to our guest. So Krishna Chieppa. So Krishna, I've known for quite a few years, and you were on the show probably a few years ago with one of your initiatives, which is called Jiwa Community Garden. What I love about you are many things, but one of the things is that I love the fact that you just put it straight out there. So I'm a green entrepreneur, right? So that's the first thing, green entrepreneur. We also have Serenity, Eco, Guesthouse, and Yoga. That's another one of your incarnations, one of your projects. As you mentioned, Jiwa Community Garden, right? So you're also this person who is obviously you're born in Bali. And again, this is really important now that you know, I'm a foreigner, my wife is Indonesian, my kids are Indonesian and Australian, but I'm a guest here and I respect that. But what's so super important about unity and diversity is that we find ways to work together. Indonesians, foreigners coming together to work on valuable projects that solve important problems and challenges. So you're one of these incredible bridges, right? Because not only are you able to communicate extremely well in both languages, but just your energy, your nature, your focus, your heart and soul that you wear on your sleeve, for me, I felt it straight away, right? As most people do and will feel, right? So maybe the longest intro to you, but everyone put your hands together for Krishna Chieppa.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. I wasn't sure when I was going to start introducing myself, but I want to mention one thing. You made a very good point. You know, what makes Bali special? You know, this show is hosted from Bali. You married an Indonesian woman. My dad came to Indonesia 35 years ago. He could have landed in any single island in Indonesia, but he landed in Bali. And there's something special about it. And I would dare say what you said in terms of unity and diversity. You may go to other islands, but you might not have the same feeling that, let's say, foreigners are accepted or as tolerated, as tolerated as, in my opinion, Bali. And that's why it's so beautiful that we're having this conversation here. We're having this talk here about regenerative Indonesia, because Bali is hopefully the best way to start that conversation. People always are confused. What does it mean to be regenerative? You mentioned what is sustainability versus regenerative. I'll be honest, they all mean the same thing, right? But it's more the fact that what speaks to you. We use the word regenerative for our network, for the simple being regenerative has an implication of growth. You're no longer trying to just recycle or make less pollution. You're trying to grow from that. So you're not just trying to build a business, but you're trying to also improve the environment. And regenerative has that sense of growth. And honestly, the reason that we use regenerative is because in our community, we've got permaculturists. So I would say I'm a permaculture background. We believe in the 12 principles of permaculture. But we also have biodynamics, which is another community that comes in. And we all want to do the best, but we all have different ways of seeing it. You know, like how do you become the most sustainable or most green? Depending on who you ask, they'll have different answers. And that's why we use regenerative, because it's neutral. You know, it's not saying this way is better or this way is not the best. We are growing together. Yeah.
You know, just thank you for that. He does speak. Longest intro ever. So so we keep everybody together, right? So, and just be straight up and honest is okay, right? So who here knows what permaculture is? Raise your hand. Okay, who here is not sure about permaculture? What the hell it means? Raise your hand. Great. Who here knows what biodynamic is?
Yeah, biodynamic, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Even I'm like, I'm learning. I'm learning biodynamics, yeah.
So let's go by quickly explaining what permaculture is and what to be biodynamic, what your interpretation of that is, and then we'll move on from there.
Okay. So permaculture, in essence, it's about the three ethics, right? It's quite similar to Tri Hita Karana. It's the fact that to do good, you have to respect people, and in permaculture they call it fair share, and then you have to care about people.
Closer.
People care, fair share, and earth care. So that's the three ethics. Now the principles, no one really memorizes all of them, but there's 12, right? There's 12. That's permaculture in essence. It's a philosophy on how to best run your business, your life. For example, there's one principle that I really like in permaculture called small and slow solutions. And that means when you apply it to business is, for example, Serenity. Most people, when they start a business, they have a master plan. A master plan where they know exactly where they want to build the houses, where the restaurant is, the cafe is. But do we really know what's the best solution for this piece of land? And honestly, the best way to do it is to take your time and observe nature, how the rain falls, how the sun goes. And Serenity was built from one house, and it grew over a period of 10 years. So this is also one great benefit of having a piece of land that you own. Now, I know it's very hard to do so in Canggu. Today, it's quite expensive. But Canggu, when we bought the land in 1998, I was only, 6 years old. It's a family business. Land here was 20 million rupiah. That's about $2,000 for 100 meters squared, which is a far cry from today, where it's about 200,000 or 100,000, whatever number you want to put. So having that time to build something and put love into it, I would say it's really the key of what makes Serenity quite alive today. So these principles that guide us, we put these principles on our wall, and every customer that comes in, we tell them, if you see that we're breaching a single principle, you tell us. And we take that feedback and we change over time. Which, can I bring it back to Regenerative Indonesia Network? We are not telling you what it is. It is a platform. It's a place to connect. As Rob mentioned, introduced, it's a place to share your events. But we don't have like an elite board community that tells our members what to do. We are here together because we want to grow together. And we found that the best way to do it is to have it as less structured as possible. So that's introduction. Biodynamics, I'll be honest, I'm still learning, so I really can't speak for that. I hope that one day we have a regenerative member who will share more about that. I do know that every week we have 2 communities from biodynamics that share their events on, I'm just going to say RIN, on Regenerative Indonesia Network, RIN, and they share the events where before they might have been lost in the ocean of information. So the fact that these events are now posted, and we're so blessed to see that people are sharing their events, their sustainable events, it really brings the community together. Because we're not trying to compete against each other. To be honest, the number of sustainable activists is a handful in Bali or even Indonesia. So let's not fight together. Let's all share our events. Let's all grow together.
You know, we've got a few, right? So we've got Scale, Climate Impact, we've got Alex's group, Regenerative Ecosystem, Manuela over here with, there you go, she's looking, right? So we've got all these different projects here. One thing that we mentioned earlier on was about, to collaborate, not duplicate, right? Which a lot of maybe foreigners who come here have this sense of, I see a problem, I'm going to solve it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the ego comes out, sorry, but just to call it out. And, without looking to see, well, who else is doing something in the space who's trying to address that challenge? Can I support them, right? To have greater impact, right, in addressing that challenge. So it's this collaboration as opposed to duplication. So now the other thing that I want to get into at this point is Regenerative Indonesia Network, that we will refer to now as RIN, right? To save the tongue, the lips, right? Let's look at Indonesia, right? So Indonesia as a whole, because there's people here in the audience which have just recently arrived. So maybe let's start like this. Let's describe Indonesia as a whole. In general, from the population, the economics, the kind of conversation we had before, from there, then let's get into the regenerative aspects of Indonesia, and then we'll move from there.
Wow, it's maybe one of the hardest questions to ask an Indonesian. What is Indonesia? Like, the best way to describe it is that Indonesia is a bunch of united countries. It's a united island state. The first time I left Bali was I was 16 years old, and I flew to Jakarta, and I thought Bali was Indonesia. So I went to Jakarta in short pants, in a tank top, and I was looked at like either I was crazy or famous, that I was too famous that I didn't care how I looked. Either way, it was a weird experience to know that Indonesia is not Bali. So for me, Indonesia is, you go to the next island, you think it's going to be the next Bali, it's different. And that's the biggest important thing, is that you can't go to a new island and try to replicate what you already know. And that's one of the, I don't know if I'm going to be in hot waters, but whenever there's a new project that are promoting different islands, they're promoting as the next Bali. Why does it have to be the next Bali? Bali is Bali, Lombok is Lombok, Sumba is Sumba, Java is Java. They're all beautiful islands. And if we don't start to appreciate what makes Indonesia special, the diversity, then we're kind of losing touch of what we should be aiming for. So, if any investor is trying to promote a different island, promote the island as is. Don't promote it as the next Bali, or the Bali of 20 years ago, or the Bali that was untouched. Appreciate the differences. So that is, for me, Indonesia. Yeah. That we are very, very diverse. And I would dare say, as a very Indonesian person, say that we are appreciative of our diversity. If that makes sense. And I mean, again, I'm biased because I'm Indonesian. I think every nationality will say, "Oh, my country is the best country." I'm not saying Indonesia is the best. I'm just saying that at least I feel that we try to respect our differences, our different skin colors, different religion. So we're very lucky in that sense.
Okay, thank you. So quick show of hands from the audience. So who here has been outside of Bali in Indonesia? Raise your hand. So in Indonesia, but outside of Bali. Lombok is outside of Bali.
Lombok counts, yeah.
Yeah, counts. So raise the hands high, people. All right. Great. So that's about maybe just a little bit over half of the audience.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Who here has been in Indonesia for less than a year? Raise your hand. Great. More than 5 years, raise your hand. Good. So we have a good idea on what. Okay. So it is a difficult question to ask in Indonesian. Like if you ask me about the UK, I'll probably be asking for help. But for those of you recently arrived, so Indonesia is a population, a nation of almost 300 million people. It's the fourth most populous country in the world, heading towards the fourth largest economy in the world in the next decade or so. There's something like 500 languages and 200 cultures, something like that. Or is it the other way around? No. Yes, correct. I got it the right way around. To give you an idea of how vast it is, 17,000 plus islands, right? So when Krishna was saying before, to name something in reference to Bali, there's 17,000 plus, right? So you can be individual about it. But the bit that I want to kind of pick up upon, is the united in diversity is a motto of Indonesia, which I think is one of the best mottos that I have heard, because it lends itself to how do we work together, right? United in diversity. Just had an election recently, and it looks like the former president, Jokowi, who was very heavily into infrastructure and moving forwards, is going to be continued along that line, right? Okay, so when it comes to the Regenerative Indonesia Network, RIN, so why is it important now, based upon these 17,000 plus islands, these 500 cultures, 200 languages, why is there a need for it now? Yeah.
It's a good question why it's important. And if you asked maybe people in the audience, for example, we have Eric in the audience, he will have a different motivation for why RIN is so important. I will say that I'm more of a technical person in terms of this. For me, I like why RIN is so important is the fact that it's very low key. You mentioned a lot of good projects that we have. Bali has so many non-profit organizations. During COVID, it ballooned. People started non-profits like they were starting a new hobby, right? And then when COVID was over and the funding kind of drained out, companies went back to work, most of them got wiped out. And I was in this mood where I was supporting a lot of projects, and then they would kind of slump down and slow down. And that's because it always required a single great founder or a lot of funding from this one grant that they received. And honestly, I was a bit tired of that. A year ago, I was a friend called Haley. She actually started, I would credit to Haley and Eric to start RIN as a foundation. And they wanted to just create that network. But I would say Haley is a great person. The only thing is she did it all by herself. And then it kind of burnt out. And so I was a bit upset because when she came up to me and said, hey, I have this new network, can you join? I started to invite lots of friends. Because for me, hey, this is the first time where there's a network that's neutral. That's not permaculture, that's not biodynamics, that's not sustainable only, or that's not owned by a company. Then 6 months later, when the burnout happened, the website was shut down because the funding stopped. And I said, no. This is a great project. We must continue it. So I asked, what was the cost of running this website? It was $99. And I said, for $99, we can connect farmers and companies together and create a network that's neutral, that's community supported. Let's go. Let's not keep it inactive any longer. Let's see who's out there who can help. And Eric and I talked about it, and we pledged ourselves like, look, if we don't find any other people who can fund it, we will do it. And the whole goal, of course, it's not supposed to be a two-person network that's funding this whole community. It's supposed to be a community project. So that's where we are right now. The fact that this website at the foundation is a place that will never shut down, that makes me feel happy. And I have all the time in the world. This is one thing in permaculture. I use permaculture. I'm from a permaculture background. Take your time. Never try to rush anything. And because through many blessings, living in Canggu financially stable, the family business, focused on sustainability, very stable. Jiwa is very stable. I'm blessed that we have all the time in the world to start this project. So whereas this is not going to be the next ultimate project where I'm going to be suddenly famous and all the network members are going to be famous, that's not the point. It's supposed to grow over years. It's never going to shut down. I'm already seeing benefits personally for Serenity. Last week, my purchasing guy was looking for new organic farms. And before that, I would have to ask him to search on Google, and he would find nothing. Now I'm like, look, we just have 20 organic farmers on this network. You reach out to them. So I'm already personally benefiting from being part of the network. So that's the core. Low-key, continuous growth, like a banyan tree. You got to grow like a banyan tree. So luckily, we have the time.
You know, I joined the network earlier on today, right? Krishna put the hard word on me. So, Rob, are you going to join the network? I was like, oh man, I should join the network. So I joined, right? Yeah. And look, very easy process. So go to the website, Regenerative Indonesia Network. And then, just sign up for like new member, fill in your details, photo, bio, and so on. Very simple. And then, but what I noticed was that, again, just an interpretation from a newbie, a white belt, that in a way it was a bit like a social media platform, right? But for good. Right, so it's a social media platform which is enhancing, connecting, and supplying opportunities for people in this space of wanting to be regenerative, of practicing to be regenerative, or learning, like me, to be more regenerative, to connect with others, projects, people, places, right? And so that's what I found. So your news feed is kind of curated. So it was a very kind of easy experience, actually, for me to kind of dive into with no hard word given to me by you.
Yeah. I mean, RIN is a platform, right? So right now, what's really happening is people are sharing the events. So we have farms you've never heard of who are sharing the events, and for the first time, they're put in front of an audience of people like us who are on social media or on the internet, and it's always these different communities, right? There's always like the farmers who hang out with the farmers, and then there's the tech guys who hang out with the tech guys, and there's no middle ground. So social media is a great way to talk about it. Now you can, I haven't talked about the next level of RIN. You can definitely create spaces where you can have specific discussions. But right now, the whole point is that it's got to be a platform that's easy to connect. It's maybe got to sound like social media a little bit. It's got to be a space where anybody can go on their phone and connect anywhere from, anywhere from the world, but the focus is for Indonesia. Like you said, the importance of now is that we're going to have a new president. There's going to be a new capital in Kalimantan. We're talking about a lot of farmers, a lot of communities who want to have a single platform to connect with that's neutral, that's not owned by a company. We did our research. I did my research personally. I was looking for a network that was similar to RIN. Like you said, if there's already an existing platform, why duplicate? I couldn't find one platform that was not owned by a company. Sorry, I'm spitting. That was not owned by a company. And so I said, look, we got to go for it. We got to go for it. And we got to try to connect all these people who are in their bubbles. To give you an example, I'm part of WhatsApp groups. I'm a part of a group called Regenerative Agriculture WhatsApp group, Permaculture Bali WhatsApp group, Be Greener Community WhatsApp group, and they're great. They're quite active. There's either one or two main founders who kind of guide the group, and it's awesome. But to be in those groups, you have to know the right people. You have to ask the right people. How is that not kind of excluding the people who want to be part of this group but don't know the right people? So, yes, these groups are great. These WhatsApp groups are great. But, we talk about trying to raise the community. and we try to raise the farmers because they're focusing on organic farming, but we forget the first step, which is how can these farmers actually reach out to you? So this is the kind of problem that we're trying to solve.
Okay, so in a minute, we're going to get the third microphone and go to you, the audience, right? So remember what I said earlier on, is that if you have a question, we're going to pass this microphone to you. This microphone is very directional. So with microphones, people do this. You won't hear it, right? So just point it at your mouth, right, when it comes. So I'm going to get one more last question here, then we're going to come to you. So just think about what the question might be. So the question for you, Krishna, is I've known you for a good chunk of time, but I don't know this about you. I think I maybe asked you years ago, but it's not in my head. So kind of what started you, right, on this journey? So let me just give you a bit of background. So we had on the show, anyone here remember a lady called Malati Wason? Malati Wason is a change maker, and she and her sister were behind Bye Bye Plastic Bags here in Bali. And then after that, she set up a company called Youthtopia. So Youthopia's got an event at the end of this month. So Youthtopia is a change maker organization. She is a force of nature. On stage with Obama, like she's speaking in Europe, the UN, you name it. Incredible what she's achieved. Her family, her mom is like just a really good family, right? So she's doing this where she can teach other people the skills, the traits to be a successful change maker themselves, right? So you have wonderful people like this here in Indonesia, even here in Bali, to bring it right down. So I know a story of why she became that person. So I see you the same way, right? So I've seen you as a bridge between Indonesia and foreigners coming in because of who you are as a person and the fact that you're such a communicative person, like very great communication, very easy to understand, easy to like, right? Funny. So my question is then, because there'll be other people out there now who might be younger, who are looking to say, I want to become something, I feel something deep within me that it's stirring, but I don't know how to get it out. I don't know how to broadcast it or to become someone like you. So then my question to you then is, was there a moment, was there over a period of time where like this trajectory of your life was becoming clear to you? And if so, kind of what did that look like?
Good question. Simply, the motivation is when you grew up in an environment where, so I went to Sunrise School. That was my first primary school. It's an environment where you learn composting. You have maths and English and all that kind of stuff, but you also have permaculture, and they teach you about wastewater gardens. And I thought the world was that. I thought that every school had composting and education about paper and plastic recycling. They had yoga classes. I thought this was the whole world. And then after grade 6, because I only went up to grade 6, then I went to my high school, which was Taman Rama. It was called Gandhi back then. And I realized the world was not as I saw it. Then I studied in Singapore, and I saw the world as I really did not see it. And to be honest, when I was growing up, we all do it. Your parents are green lovers or hippies. You grow up, you want to be the opposite of that. So I started kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. I still do jiu-jitsu. I still love that sport. But I was also into technology. It was the age of Facebook, Google ads, Facebook ads. And so I was kind of anti-parents and anti what my parents love. I was like, oh, these are so lame. They're so lame to love nature. And then you grow up, and you finish uni. And I wanted to do something that was worthwhile. And I looked into Facebook, to Facebook ads, to be kind of a consultant. And it worked well, but something died inside of me a little bit. There's a euphoria of taking your first business trip, everything paid for, and you stay in a 5-star hotel. but it lasts for 1 month. After 1 month, you feel you're trapped. I remember it was a moment where I was in the office. It was an Orchard Road in Singapore, the main road. I was looking down, into the audience, the passengers. I was in a brick building, glass, full AC. And for the first month, I was the happiest guy, because I was coming from Bali, Bali kid. And then after 1 month, I was like, what am I doing here? What is this? This is crazy. Who can do this forever? And I came back to Bali, and all the things that I kind of took advantage of, or kind of Bali is whatever, I start to appreciate things. Nature, the beach, my parents, the way their mindset was. And then I was like, this is the way of the future. Who can today start a business without at least saying that they're doing something for the environment? And it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because on one hand, I just want to just enjoy Bali. On the other hand, because of all these amazing people that kind of have educated me, all the friends that are in sustainability, I can't close my eyes. And now with a daughter, 1 year and 4 months, 1 year, 5 months, I really cannot close my eyes. So as much as I want to focus on enjoying life, on kind of losing weight and doing all the things that make Canggu so amazing, all these people who are in CrossFit, looking so good, I have to save, at least if not Canggu, then at least the street. One of my dreams that I hope we can have as a community is having a community garden in the middle of Canggu. Canggu is so hot right now. And if we don't work together, then Canggu is going to be the next Kuta, and we all know where Kuta is now. It's kind of a ghost town full of empty, huge buildings. So if we don't stop that flow, it won't stop at Canggu. It's going to go to Perenan, it's going to go to Nyani, it's going to continue on. So it's a blessing and a curse. So honestly, I come from the point of view where I'm in a position where I'm enjoying living in Canggu. I love the Canggu vibe, but I also cannot just enjoy, because we have to be part of this change. Canggu is growing too fast into a direction where it's going to be the next Kuta. And if we don't work together, it is going to be.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Respect. Yeah, respect. So now just have your question ready. Just while I know some of you are thinking about your question. Yeah, just over here, Brother Guzman, man over here. I want to quickly say three things quickly. So one is, in Indonesia, and you can help me if I'm wrong, is obviously agriculture is massive, right? It's a huge employer, it's a huge industry. Over the years in Bali, and I think outside of Bali as well, due to modernization and a few other things, right? So the farming has kind of been diminishing, right? Or the at least in Bali, the desire for the next generation of farmers to be farmers is slipping, right? So, but there's good news, right? There's projects that we've had on the show. So anyone knows who Sabah Bay is? Sabah Bay, the winery. You've probably drunk the wine, right? The CEO, Effie, incredible person, wonderful family. I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, or it's whatever, man. One of the largest suppliers of red wine to the Vatican. Go figure, right? But what they've actually been doing, and they map it out. If you go to do a winery tour, they'll show you a map of interactive one of where agricultural land was in Bali over the last 20, 30 years and where it is now. So what they're focused on, and they're not alone, is how do they make farming, for want of a better term, it cool again, right? The young kids in the villages growing up also want to become farmers, right? So there's a bunch of people doing some really interesting things. 5 Harvest O we've had on the show that uses blockchain, NFTs through immigration. So essentially, when you buy your Kitas or you buy your visa using blockchain technology, transparency, then a certain number goes straight to the farmer. right? And they raised billions in their first harvest last year, billions of rupiah for farmers. So there are these really interesting projects which I believe are going to be right there, right, on the regenerative. See, got it. RNI. Regenerative Indonesia Network. So they're going to be there as well. So I just want to put that one in. Let's go to your question before I have to say that word again.
Regenerative. That's tough. That is tough. Well, thank you, Rod. Thank you, Krishna. You two are great. Appreciate you hosting this tonight and sharing all this great insight with us. Krishna, I really love what you're saying about community and how community can create progress without being owned by a company or having to be organized through a government. It sounds like in the tech world, what people say are DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. And I guess a challenge DAOs have, and I'm sure WhatsApp groups have, protest movements have, that aren't owned by a president or a company, is having enough structure so it's not anarchy, but not so much structure where it's preventing creation, innovation, and community. So I'm curious, how do you provide enough structure so things progress, so the community can flourish, but not so much that it actually prevents diversity and creativity?
Great question.
So when the whole hiatus of the website being inactive and we're trying to figure out what's the best solution, those who put their hands up saying let's bring this website back alive, we all agreed on what we call these governance principles. So these are some principles that we agreed upon, and I haven't talked about it until now. And the reason being is that it's not necessary right now, unless you come to us and you're part of the network and you're like, I want to bring this to the next level. I want to grow this. I want to create my own space. I want to create my own space within the network. Then you can reach out and we'll tell you these are the principles that we stand for. Basically, the key is if you are part of let's say the pledgers that you're putting your money and your energy into it, you have to understand that you are not in a position of power, but it's a temporary responsibility given to you. All right. So that's, if that answers your question, if you want to go deeper, you can. Right now, at this point, it's just we have a network. There's already members. They're already sharing their activities. The whole point of the network it's got to be very simple. A farmer that wants to know more about biodynamics or more about permaculture, to go on that website and just find it, right? And the website, it's quite modern. You can translate to whatever language you need to. So that's the whole key. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Great question, brother. So over here we got two. We got Britt and Toby. So Britt is a friend from Sydney, and I haven't seen her for 10 years or whatever it's been. So it's great that she managed to kind of come at this time where it was this topic. So what I'd love you to start by doing is just explain a little bit about your background so people get an idea about your area and why you connect to this.
Okay, my background is actually marketing and communications and management consulting. So worked for one of the big global companies for a while, left there about 7 years ago and ended up in Mexico for whatever reason. Loved the community there and started with a friend of mine a recycling service. So we ran for 3 years a free recycling service where we collected everything, all the different materials from houses, from expat houses essentially. Every fortnight, never stopped for 3 years, which was a really amazing feat. It was a free service, so we financed like the petrol and everything through sponsorships. So we lived there and we were quite active in the social nightlife, whichever life, and had good contacts. So restaurants or hotels would sponsor a run. So every fortnight we would go out and find new sponsors, and we had, I think, 1,500 followers, so it was a value for them as well. So that's kind of how we financed it. And I studied business sustainability management at Cambridge University. So just moving from marketing to sustainability, because like you, and I love your enthusiasm, it's like, God, this was me 10 years ago. That you can't, I mean, as much as I wanted to be in digital when I started out in advertising back in the like 2000s, showing my age, it's kind of now sustainability. Like you can't do anything, any work, whatever, start something new without thinking about the planet, without being sustainable. Right now I moonlight for a B2B IT marketing company, and it's soul destroying and soul sucking, but it's money. I'm on a vacation here, so thank you, universe, for allowing me this, but it's the worst job. And I consulted businesses in Tulum, Mexico for like events. So my passion is events, in Ibiza as well. So helping them be more sustainable, be plastic free, any whatever way there is. There is a lot of numbers involved. I'm not very good with numbers, like all the calculations you have to do. So, but I love the collaboration, not duplication. There's so many egos, especially Mexico. People always want to do it themselves. I'm very much about partnerships and collaboration. That's where it's at. It's community as well. Like we need to come together. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. COVID showed us that amazing things can happen overnight. So that's my background.
Right. Now, do you have a question or a comment?
Yes. Yeah. So my question was continuing on from the previous question, and it's an unsexy question, but I just had a quick look at it. I love it. It's fantastic. I think it's a really important platform, and it's free access. So my question is around monetization. So you talked about Google ads. Obviously, we know Facebook ads. So what's your view, or how are you going, how are people going to pay their rent from running it, as well as obviously people benefiting from it? That would interest me.
Right. Good question. So in terms of monetization in the future, so what we agreed as a community in terms of the governance principles, the core foundation, which is the platform to share your events, to connect with other members, to share your business listing on there, that is forever free. That is our promise, right? That is our promise as a community, right? In these principles, we also mentioned that if in the future somebody wants to add on to it, so not changing anything from the core function, but add on to it, they can do so, right? I think some people, we were talking about, shouldn't RIN be a yayasan, a non-profit organization, like an official yayasan, and should we hire somebody to manage this community? And then I said, that's for whoever wants to take that role. Because when I think of yayasan, it's going to be taxes, it's going to be cost, and then you hire a community manager, it's going to be a person, maybe for free for some time, and then it's going to be paid. And then we're going to be like any other organization that are doing great things, but are costing a lot of money. And trust me, I'm lucky to be part of these communities that are quite expensive to fund. And as soon as that big founder drops out, it just blocks, I'm not going to mention names, but the point is that's the key idea. So the core function of a platform to connect, to share your events, to share and ask questions, that will be forever free, right? And if in the future somebody says, you know what, I want to build a community specific to this, and I want to build a yayasan to make it more official, go ahead. But the core function must remain forever free. It is a pledge that we took all together. Obviously, stronger is more. The more people who are pledging is better. Right now, it's me and Eric, but we're talking about not a lot of money. So we're happy to pledge for the rest of our lives. Yeah.
Great question, Toby.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you, Krishna. Very inspiring what you're doing. I have 3 questions. I hope that's okay. 2 short ones with hopefully short answers.
Super cool, Toby. No, man, you come all the way. Feel free.
So, one, I was wondering what would be for you the one single development parameter, be it you're opening a company or you're making a development. So, as an example, like Bhutan says, gross national happiness is their number one parameter on everything they do. A lot of other countries might make it the GDP. What would you say for regenerative when you're starting something new? What is the number one parameter that you would say defines what you should be doing?
That's a good question, because depending on who you're asking, they're going to have different parameters. You might ask Eric, and he's got a lot of parameters that for him would be milestones to hit.
It's more like for you, what is for you
me,
the one most important one? Yeah, that's
for me. My one goal, right? The reason I like this platform is because it's very simple to use. My one goal is to at least have one farmer per week going to that website and connecting to companies. That would be my one thing. And how I would check it, I would check if this farmer is commenting on a business, saying, hey, look, I got some organic cherry tomatoes. That's for me. My milestone is very, very low. Literally, and I said farmer, not any. I know people are already connecting within the community, but I want to see farmers. I want to see the people who are growing our food, so they know there's a place that they can connect without having to speak English or having to require to know the right people or going through a middle person. That would be my milestone. I'm using milestone because I understand that better than parameter. Yeah.
I think actually leads on really good to the next question, which was in how far is RIN also interested in the socio and ethical standards of the users, especially the farmers you have, taking into account that even in Indonesia, many of them are still living below minimum wage, and that international studies show that with $2 a day, your life expectancy is 50, with $4 it's 70. And within the social sustainability enterprises I'm involved in, for us that's always a really big factor, that we make sure anybody in that chain has the right social and ethical working conditions. So I'm wondering, in how far is RIN trying to assure, or even doing a program, that the farmers that are listed there can reach this standard?
Good question. I mean, so I'm speaking on behalf of myself. Again, the other network members will have different answers. Again, RIN is not supposed to really be one way or the other. My example before is that we have people who are studying biodynamics, and for them it's the best thing ever. People studying permaculture is the best thing ever. Talking about social ethics, different people have different standards, right? So RIN should not, at this point, be putting a benchmark what that level is. RIN should be a platform. So if, let's say, you have a program that you want to put it out there, you have a platform that you can voice that program. I don't know if I answered your question. Is that your?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just wondering. There's members in there, and I mean, maybe RIN can look at what their economic status basically is, and work it out and find out that they reach that certain level of economic status to be able to have enough nutritional food to reach a certain living standard and lifetime. So I think it would be, for example, something that I would be very interested to support if you would have it on your platform. So that's one of the reasons I'm asking. I
mean, there's a lot of good causes, right? Malnutrition is a cause that it's a big problem. For me personally, because I'm in Canggu, for me it's urbanization or over-urbanization, or the losing of natural space for villas and hotels. That would be my goal. Everybody has different main big problems. One big problem is also there's not many farmers who are below 60 years old, right? So I think to answer your question, if you put it on the network, you see who that connects with, and they'll be there to support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just maybe my last question, really. Oh, you're answering. Oh, thank you, Eric. Yeah.
So, can I do without the camera? I'm actually camera shy. Yeah.
So
I'm one of the seek by Interpol kind of guy. Yeah. Specifically on that. So, as Krishna mentioned, we don't the network itself doesn't have a specific program on. Can you do the camera?
Leave the camera on us.
Yes.
Thank you.
like the network itself doesn't do anything like you mentioned. I personally do it. Like ironically, I cannot put it on the website. Why? Because it's not in Indonesia. It's in Timor. It's like already a different country. Yeah, but like that's just kind of like an example to see why the network is open. It's really not yet like, oh, there's a specific program. It's not like, as Krishna mentioned in the very beginning, it's not like a very organized, super structured and everything. I'm doing different things. Krishna's doing different things. We share a common mission. We share a common belief. We try to get more people who share all this together as well. So it's very fluid at this point. Yeah, so if you want to do something like that as well, I'm very happy to chat with you to follow up on this discussion. If you want to do it here, maybe we can do something. And that's the whole point, again, of the network, for people like us who shared something in common to connect, to do something and make good things. Yeah, so move on to your next question.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. The final thing is, it's more what you were saying about keeping Canggu green in other areas. And this is something, since you're local, you can maybe answer more pertinently. In the last 3 to 6 months, there have been, that I can count, at least 4 or 5 massive 500, 600-year-old banyan trees in temple complexes, especially in and around Ubud, been cut down because the government gave the village heads money to expand their temple. And I don't know if you've seen this or heard of it. It takes them like 3-4 weeks to take one down. And it's really, really shocking to me, because I feel that these banyan trees inside the temples are something that really shows the regenerativeness of Bali. I don't know if you've noticed that at all.
Man, one of the things about Bali is that each area of Bali is like its own country. So if you live in Canggu, you're going to hang out with Canggu communities. In Ubud, Sanur. But this is why we have the network, the platform. So we can share this information. I would love to know more about the banyan tree situation in Ubud.
Well, I can a couple. The thing is that the government actually gave money. This was still from the pandemic times, for them to be able to upgrade their temples, and sadly it has led, because they don't have any more space, because they already have their temple in the banyan trees, that a lot of these very old historic trees inside the temple areas are being cut down.
That's actually a rare, especially
but I don't
for
think.
Bali.
I also don't think as a non-Indonesian, or especially non-Hindu, I'm allowed to say anything. So I'm just asking some locals the question.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, usually banyan trees for Hindus are very sacred. So the fact that they're cutting is a big deal. Not normal. No. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question, Toby, and for everyone who's asked a question. So if there any more questions, please feel free. While people are thinking about that, I just want to raise another project which I've come across, which I think is phenomenal. So everyone knows what the moringa plant is. Moringa. Raise your hand if you know what moringa is. I had no clue. Okay, good. Well, I had no clue, right? So moringa has some incredible properties. One is malnutrition, right? It's phenomenal. So they're called trilogy or trilogy. So tree, L-O-G-Y. Tree, L-O-G-Y. Started by, there's a few of them, but Sasha is one, and his mum, they're the owners of Blue Karma, if you know the Blue Karma resorts, or the retreats, Blue Karma retreats. And all of their team is Indonesian, and they are creating one of the if I can get the verbiage right, one of the most highest quality moringa products in the world, right? They launch at the end of this month. So Toby, you should be there. They're coming to ask me afterwards, and I'll get you guys an invitation. But they are phenomenal. Part of what they do is that they employ 300 women, Indonesian women, to pick the leaves off the moringa tree, and this I won't get right, but it has to be between 10 a.m. and midday, or is it 9 a.m. and 11 a.m.? It's very, very specific. So there's 300, right, picking these leaves, which then go to make these products. That's part of it. Another part of it is that what they're doing is they're creating, and this is good for you, Toby, is an incubator for sustainable farming. Now, by sustainable farming, I mean farming which you make money from as well, right? So it's financially and economically sustainable also. So they're creating an incubator for that to teach and show other farmers how they are doing it and how they can apply some of those principles to have that success as well, right? So yeah,
it'd be good to have those events if they are opening to the public, to have those events on RIN, so then we can share it to the network.
Yeah. I mean, so look out from Trilogy. So Tree, L-O-G-Y.
Trilogy.
Right? Yeah,
Okay.
I can't pronounce it. Trilogy. There you go.
Yeah.
Trilogy. Yeah. So any more questions before we?
I mean, what Toby was was saying about malnutrition in Indonesia. Sometimes the easiest solution is to see what's available around us. You talk about moringa. I know moringa. It's a great protein-rich plant. Not only that, it's also nitrogen fixing. So it not only has lots of protein, they call it the drumstick tree, but also plants require nitrogen to grow, and moringa gives nitrogen to the soil. So it gives food to these fruit plants and these vegetable plants, and it has full of protein. And if you wanna feed a lot of people, I mean, during COVID, the Jiwa Community Garden project started during COVID, and we were teaching people all these alternative food sources. I mean, now it's like 2 years ago we already forgot about it. But 2 years ago, it was a moment where people actually did not know where they would get their next meal from. It was serious. People were, drivers, taxi drivers, guides. They all lost. They had no income. And we rediscovered together moringa, which is great in protein. There was also Brazilian spinach, which grows like crazy. It's the equivalent of kangkung or water spinach. And these things grow super fast. And in a small piece of land, if you're trying to grow traditional crops like tomatoes, cucumbers, it requires a lot of intensive care. But if you start to feed the population with local food, cassava grows like crazy, then your perspective on hunger changes. There's a big revolution that happened, the green revolution that happened in Indonesia, where suddenly the government wanted to fight malnutrition by forcing every farmer to grow rice, including the farmers who are in the eastern parts of Indonesia where rice doesn't grow naturally because rice requires lots of water. And all these cassava planters were forced to grow rice. And overall, it was feeding the country. I will say that it fed. But the long-term impact was all these places that suddenly never grew rice now are growing rice. And all these people, these who are used to eating cassava, are now so used to eating rice. Indonesians, if they don't have rice for breakfast, lunch, dinner, they haven't eaten yet. And I would say, I'm a mixed kid. My dad is originally from France. But if I don't have my rice 3 times a day, I feel like I'm starving. So, and my wife is from Sulawesi. They have these beautiful cassava balls. And it's indigenous, it grows locally, it grows really well. But because I'm so used to eating rice, I look at this like, what is this alien food? So again, I'm not here to debate what is the best way to save Indonesia or to save poverty. I'm just talking about RIN, which is a platform to allow these conversations to happen.
As we draw this conversation to a close in the next couple of minutes, one of the topics which I'd like to introduce. So for the people here in Indonesia will maybe realize that the capital, Jakarta, is moving, right, to Kalimantan, right, in the near future. It will take a while, but it's moving. So, part of what we discussed before was this, Indonesia, becoming this 4th largest economy in the next decade or so. And obviously we said about the 4th most populous country. What I haven't said is it's one of the youngest adopters of technology in the world. One of the only countries of this size that has a fertility rate that's rising. Yeah. Okay?
The average is 30 years old. The average age of Indonesians is we're we're gonna have a lot of babies soon. Yeah.
Right, a lot of babies. And then, this whole marine tourism is about to open up. Marinas will be built. I mean, it's the largest archipelago in the world, the second largest coastline in the world, voted the most beautiful country in the world a couple of years ago for places like Labuan Bajo. There's so much diversity and beauty here, right? So now, this brings you to the question, then, we were talking a little bit earlier on about, the next 10 years, about West, not versus East, but could you bring that up? 'Cause I think it's really relevant. And then where Regenerative Indonesia Network can also fit in that area.
It's scary, I call myself a green entrepreneur because I like to think that we can earn a living without destroying the environment, but at least make it even better. So for me, it's a scary moment because Indonesia, if you look at Indonesia, the west side is all developed. Sumatra, Java, Bali, very developed, very known. The east side is not. You go to Sumba, I've only been, my most eastern was Sumba, so I've never been to Flores. But my friends who've been there, it's a jungle. And what the government, when we had the presidential elections, when we had Prabowo, who is going to be the next president, it shared a clear message to all of Indonesia and the world that Indonesia, by moving its capital to the center of the country, the signal is it's going to start developing the eastern side of Indonesia. So imagine Indonesia that has been a very growing country suddenly has its two hands, where it used to have only one hand behind its back and one hand in front. Now it's got its two hands that it's going to grow. And it's scary because we're gonna destroy so much forest. We're gonna destroy so much marine life. So RIN hopefully is gonna be there to at least allow the people who want to be sustainable or who want to connect with other communities to work together. There's always a thing where if you want to promote the 5 ways of getting rich quick, you're going to have a lot of views. You want to promote the 5 ways to be sustainable, it slows down a little bit. The fact is, especially for Indonesians who are in their 30s, who just got married, who are in debt, who are spending a lot of money, right now their focus is income, family, and religion. That's the reality. That's the biggest pressure. And I can say this because I'm also part of communities of Balinese entrepreneurs. It's night and day. When you talk about sustainability in these kind of environments, or when you go to Denpasar and you have their meetings, it's the whole biggest difference. So hopefully the RIN platform will allow the people to at least have these connections, to say, hey, look, I'm going to build a guest house. I want to build a restaurant. I don't know how to do it. Can I go to a platform and get some advice? That's the whole goal. That's the hope. Yeah.
And that, to me, is a great place to kind of close this one up very soon, is that, that word regenerative, that we started off with in the beginning, is a word that, again, you spoke more about the farmers. As you mentioned, the different members have got a different kind of area of focus, right? And you've made yours pretty clear. Eric's made his pretty clear. And as people grow and come onto the platform, then that's going to become clearer too. I mean, as I mentioned to you before, there's a project which we're just finalizing the details of, and it's about a city in a special economic zone, right? So the way which I see that word regenerative, is a word that can permeate all of it. It's not just for the farmers. It's not just for this group or not just for that group. It's like a mindset, a bit like PR is in every, for a business today that's customer driven, PR is in every area, right? If it's not, then you're missing something, right? So in the same way as Indonesia grows and is inspired to grow, then regenerative can be something like PR is infused from the bottom to the top, from the roots to the fruits, because any tree, the roots determine what the fruits will do, right? If the roots are strong, then the fruits will probably be strong as well. If there's a problem with the roots, then there's a problem with the fruits. right? So look, just to have you close us out in about a minute or so, I'm going to ask you if there's anything that you want to say that maybe you wanted to say before but haven't had a chance, or might be reiterating something that you've said already. I'm going to give you that opportunity to do so in about a minute or so, right? So just coming back to you, the audience, first I just want to say thank you to everybody who came today. I trust that you learned something that maybe you didn't understand or know before. For those of you watching online, like the critical part of this is the people that come, because each episode attracts people who are interested in that topic. So when you come and see people like this beautiful man, Krishna, who's amazing, right? There's also audience members who are amazing as well. And quite often, that's why earlier on, I want everybody to grab a mic and to say, why am I here? I'm really glad that Britt came from Sydney, right? I'm so glad to see you. We'll have a chat afterwards. That Eric's here, that Toby's here, that you guys over here as well from Santa Barbara, right? And everyone else, because the whole point is that the person that you often need, or not need, but can contribute to what you're doing, is sitting right next to you. But you don't speak because no one does. They're like, oh, it's over, and they leave. So at least then by having a conversation and allowing people to speak, then they can say, hey, I'm from KL, right? This is what I was involved in before. So anyone here who's like, hey, KL, boom, they're going to go and speak to her. Because again, it's not so easy for everybody to connect with people they don't know. But if there's already an in, it makes it a lot easier to say, hey, I heard you were from KL. I'm thinking about moving there. Or I hear, Sydney, that I'm with you. I'm conflicted too about how this whole thing relates, and I don't like my job. Can you give me any advice? When I look at Toby, it might be, hey, Lombok. I always do this too, don't I? But, it's like Lombok. Tell me about Lombok, Toby, because I know that you're there, that you're really enthusiastic about it, and I know why. Tell me more, because I'm looking to open up something there, right? So these sorts of connections are the important pieces, and that's the reason why you come in person and not just sit at home watching it online, which is good, but come in person. It's stronger, and you get those real connections. Next week will be Health Hub Bali. As you know, it's what we've been doing the first Monday of every month. That will be episode number 25. Since we started that one, this special collaboration with Health Hub Bali, it came from, this platform for better health into a tourism initiative. They're meeting with Santiago Uno, I think, next week. They're basically advising government. Like, they're gone bananas now, right? And they're growing every single week, every single month. So that's just a beautiful thing to see about Bali becoming, a place where you can come and reclaim your own health by using West meets East. So you can get diagnosed with instrumentation and tools, but then once you know what you have, you can treat it either using Eastern modalities or Western modalities in a place which is Bali, which through the 7 ley lines of energy that lay under it and the culture that locks it in place, your nervous system naturally heals in Bali. So you come to Bali to reclaim your own health and have all of this health, medical, wellness tourism here. So this is why it's really important that health impacts all of us. So you should come next week to check it out. So thanks again, Tropical Nomad, Guzman, Hadis, and Ayu, wherever you are. We're not done yet. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Those people who came, love you. So Krishna, give the stage back to you. If there's anything that you feel like, you want to reiterate or say or mention to people.
Look, I would say, no one can really predict what the future holds or what is the best way of doing anything. Collaboration is really the strongest asset that we have. If let's say you want to start a business, listen to your customers, listen to your community members. It makes also business sense when you ask advice to your customers how you should build something. If tomorrow you build a platform like Rin, again, Rin is not perfect. You are part of this network. You're supposed to contribute and put in your opinions on how we should move forward. So yeah, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know the best way of doing anything. So be nice to your neighbors, be nice to your friends, listen, take the feedback, and then you can decide if you want to act on it or not, but be nice. I think that's the biggest key I want to share.
Right. Round of applause, please. Krishna Chieppa.